Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Mixed Text and Politics. If you have not done so, please subscribe to my channel so you can be updated when I post a new video. All right, so I want to talk about something that is very important here. Are Californians moving to the state of Texas turning us blue? Now, this is one of the biggest talking points among conservatives, and I don't like the argument there. It's the idea that, oh, these Californians come here, going to turn our state blue. They're going to ruin our state. I hear it all the time, and I'm guilty of this myself without really looking into what the data actually says. And it just doesn't, it's not convincing. The argument is not convincing. And from what I've seen, it looks like the answer is no. They are not turning the state blue. Now, let's get into some video here, and we'll go into some polling data, and then we'll finish off the video. All right, so this is from 2020, after the election. Governor Abbott, Texas did stay red. Why a blue wave didn't hit Texas in 2020. Let's watch this video right here.
Now to state races. In a tweet, Governor Greg Abbott wrote, Texas did stay red. Every statewide race and the Texas House and Senate remain Republican. God bless Texas, the governor said. Well, we certainly did not see the blue wave Democrats hoped for. Stephanie Whitfield talked to political experts to find out exactly why.
Across the boards, there was remarkable turnout, especially among Democrats who voted early. But in Texas, the bottom line is Republicans matched that on Election Day. In race after race,
it is going to truly be an honor.
District after district.
Not even close. Not even close.
Republicans took home big victories in Texas by even bigger margins than some expected.
Well, clearly, a blue wave that never materialized ran into red reality.
Republican strategist Vlad Davidic says conservatives showed up to keep what he calls pro-Texas values in place.
Keep Texas red.
We see what happened in Seattle and Portland. We see those supporters of those policies and those candidates coming to Texas and trying to push those same values, and it just doesn't fly.
While there were no big upsets on election night, political analysts say there was a big shift.
And that is how well Republican candidates did among Hispanic voters.
The president made huge inroads with Latinos in the Rio Grande Valley. That, experts say, could be problematic for Democrats for years to come.
If it's not a solid red state, it's surely moved out of being what I will call a real battleground state.
Stephanie Whitfield, KHOU 11 News.
All right, so you saw that. 2020, Texas stayed pretty red. Actually, more red than in 2018 when Beto, Jumpin' Jack Flap O'Rourke came within 2.6 percentage points of Ted Cruz. But I feel like that was a one-off. If you take a look at the bigger picture, Greg Abbott won 2018, won his race by over 1 million votes against his opponent. So that race was unique in itself because he was, a star at the time, and he had a lot of funding. He was campaigning really well, but he still didn't win. So let's watch another video. Some CNN. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play the most important part. But at the end of it, if you want to watch it, I'll post it in the box below. You can see where CNN tries to turn this into a vaccine video. But anyway, take a look at this.
Texans think that the Californians moving here is going to turn Texas blue. And if I can tell anybody one thing, there is a red wave coming here.
So many people are moving to Texas, the real estate market can barely keep up. Some want cheaper houses, and some say they want a safe space for their politics. After real estate agent Marie Bailey made the move herself in 2016, she created a private Facebook group called Move to Texas from California. With the pandemic, she's seen a surge in new members, now more than 33,000.
Politics are a big discussion in our group because you just cannot talk about moving without politics.
So all these things being built, even I guess this plot of land, These are already bought.
Yes, yes,
Like, do houses sell in a day?
yes. Houses are selling in hours. I have a lot of people in my group that would consider themselves as a political refugee. California has taken it very far in a lockdown, and the pandemic opened up people to wanting to move for several reasons. These people are suffering, and their children are suffering, and they come here on their scouting trips, and I literally have people that break down and cry, and they're like, your parks are open. There's children outside.
Joshua Dunn joined Bailey's group. He says he moved to Texas in July, and his wife and kids followed.
I was getting depressed out there. Everything was shut down in California. I was on Indeed.com looking for jobs. I took the first job they offered. 2 weeks later, we were rolling out here.
And what was appealing about Texas?
More freedoms, less government in our pocket. I never voted Democrat. I always voted Republican, and this is why I'm coming out. I want some land. I want to be left alone. And honestly, I want to start my gun collection.
Texas grew by nearly 374,000 residents in 2020. But the pandemic has only fueled the exodus from California, where the population was growing at its slowest rate in more than 100 years as of December. Right now, Texas has a lower unemployment.
All right, so that guy, what he said is very important. He said he wants some land, he wants freedom, he wants a lot of gun collection, he wants to be left alone. This guy, I have not seen the news for you liberals out there. I haven't seen him on the news as some kind of mass killer. He's not getting guns to kill anybody, he wants to collect them. But anyway, people like that are coming here to Texas. So he didn't say anything about keeping turning Texas blue or anything like that. He is a lifelong conservative Republican voter.
Employment rate, while California has a slightly lower death rate from COVID-19. Still, this is part of a trend in which Republicans and Democrats live in places where they encounter few people of the opposite party.
I saw my owner losing her business. I saw like no one cutting people breaks. Like at the end of the day, it's like people need to put food on their table right now.
After COVID restrictions closed the salon where Courtney Prisco worked as a hairstylist, she and her husband quit LA. They could afford a much bigger house in Texas, and they were sick of businesses being shut down.
We never were afraid of like COVID. We actually got COVID like 2 months ago. My heart goes out to all the people that have like lost lives and that, didn't beat it.
Okay, but just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
So you did get COVID though once you'd moved to Texas,
yes.
which is a place with less COVID
yes.
restrictions.
Yes.
So what do you think about that?
Back in California, like we were still being very lax about COVID, but I never got it. And coming here, I was still the same way. So I really don't believe that it was anything to do with Texas. It was just kind of like it was my time to get it. I don't know.
Are you going to get the vaccine?
No.
Why not?
No, absolutely not. No. Me and my husband are like hippies at heart. Like honestly, we're very cautious of to what we're putting into our body. Just seeing how strong my body was to fight off COVID was so empowering. I'm not afraid to get it again. Like I'm just not afraid.
Being young and healthy puts you at less risk for serious complications.
All right, so we're not going to play the rest of this video. They're going to start pushing the vaccine, all this. We're not going to get into that. But you see somebody like that, those people are not going to vote liberal. They left their state. So the young lady that just spoke, business was being shut down. She came to Texas and she didn't like all the restrictions. She doesn't want any mandates, vaccine mandates. So that's why she came out here. And I've seen other videos as well, which over the years, people coming to Texas, buying homes, saying they are lifelong Republicans. And they will continue to vote that way. They're not coming here to turn Texas blue. So here's some other data I want to show you. 74% of conservative Californians are looking into leaving the state. This is an article here from the Federalist. More than half of California voters have thought about moving out of the state, according to a new poll from Institute of Governmental Studies at UC Berkeley. And this is a study of 4,500 people. So it's not 100 people, 500 people in this poll. It's a wide range of people, 4,500. A full 74% of the state's very conservative voters say they're looking into moving, and 84% of those cite California's political culture as their rationale for leaving. Unsurprisingly, the high cost of housing is mentioned by 71% of California voters who have considered moving out of the state. So let's go down here a little bit. When asked why they were considering leaving, 84% of very conservative voters cited California's political culture as the reason, with 76% also citing the state's high taxes and 61% mentioning the cost of housing. Of the state's somewhat conservative voters, 77% mentioned the political culture, 76% high taxes, and 66% the high cost of housing. All right, some more good stuff here. Saving Texas crucial electoral votes. Over the last decade, the most common destination for outbound moves from California has been Texas. In 2013, the University of Texas and the Texas Tribune published a poll of Californians who had moved to Texas. In that poll, 57% identify as conservative compared to 27% who identify as liberal. In 2018, that poll seemed to be reinforced by a CNN poll for the Senate race between Jumpin' Jack Flapp and Ted Cruz. Voters who had moved to Texas favored Ted Cruz by 15%, while native Texans supported Jumpin' Jack Flapp by 3%. So people who came out of the state supported Ted Cruz more so than people who lived in the state. So according to this exit poll, it was the people that are from other places which kept Ted Cruz in that seat, if you go based off of this poll itself. So yeah, there's a little more here I want to talk about. Well, all right, so when you look at this poll right here, let's go to this real quick. So the amount of people who are considering leaving Texas, when it comes to Democrats and Republican, people who identify as Republican or conservative are 3 times more likely to want to leave the state than liberals. So the people who are leaving California, that in this study, the majority of them are conservative who want to leave the state, not liberals. So this is some more data right here. The Texas Public Policy Foundation conducted polls of registered voters and test attitudes between natives and non-natives. In January of 2020, a poll of 800 registered voters found native Texans supported Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton by a 7-point margin, compared to transplants, who supported Trump by a 12-point margin. So there you go. 800 people polled for 2020 registered voters. People who are not from Texas voted for Donald Trump in higher numbers than the people who lived in Texas, who are from Texas. So there you go. It's more data right there. Texas Public Policy Foundation's polling found there was no statistical difference in voter preferences for either former President Trump or Joe Biden in the 2020 election among natives versus non-natives. In both samples, support for 2 candidates was balanced, with neither seeing an advantage. In the 2020 election, Trump received 52% of the vote, while Biden received 46%. So the polling sample is slightly overrepresented Biden supporters and underrepresented Trump supporters. There you go. All right, so here goes the 2020 election results. Donald Trump won a record amount of votes, nearly 6 million votes. 52% of the vote compared to Joe Biden getting 46.5%. So while that margin may not seem very wide, when you take a look at the numbers themselves, Trump received a record amount of votes. That's just the bottom line. We're still winning by about 650,000 votes overall. Now we take a look at the Senate seat. John Cornyn, he's not my. I did vote against him in the primaries because I feel like there were more conservative candidates than him. He still won by 1 million votes, about 1.1 million votes. So the margin was not small here. As much as Mary Hager campaigned and as much money that was spent to unseat John Cornyn, the Republicans still won by over 1 million votes and about 10%. So now the presidential race was a little bit smaller than that, but we don't know what the reason was for that, why Trump didn't win at that same margin. But as I showed in the video earlier, all Republicans kept the House. We didn't lose a single state House seat, and we maintained the state Senate seat. So the state Senate chamber. So here we go. 2018. I was talking about earlier. Jumpin' Jack Flap came within 2.6 percentage points to Ted Cruz. But in that same year, Governor Greg Abbott got 4.6, almost 4.7 million votes compared to Lupe Valdez, 3.5 million. So he won by 13%. So when you look at the bigger picture, you take a look at the bigger picture. I know a lot of people got worried about Jumpin' Jack Flap getting close to Ted Cruz. I get that. It was a little scary, but like I said, take a look at the bigger picture. Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton, they both got more votes than Jumpin' Jack Flap. And among the other statewide races, individually, they each got more votes than Jumpin' Jack Flap. So, yeah, there's a lot to be concerned about with that race. I get it, just on the face value, if you just take a look at the numbers themselves. But when you factor in other things, Texas is still a red state. It's not a battleground state. The guy said in the video earlier, Texas has moved out of the battleground column if it was in there. And I've heard this from other conservatives before, people who study elections and things like that, that Texas is no longer really considered a battleground state. It was at one point moving into the battleground state column, and I think that was back in 2018, based on some of the data, like the Senate race and things like that, and some of the suburbs. But I think it's been moved back into a red state column, if it ever was moved out of it. I'm even hearing things that I'm even hearing people say that Texas will not likely become a battleground state until 2028 or even as far as 2032. Now that goalpost keeps moving. You know, it used to be all Texas is going to turn blue by 2020, by 2022, by 2024, but I don't see that happening just based off of what we're seeing in recent elections. I'm going to make another video about the Hispanic shift towards the GOP here in Texas. And I think that's going to be a big reason why Texas remains solidly red in 2022 and in 2024. Now, here's something that Rush Limbaugh said a while back. When people would ask, how do you keep them from turning Texas blue? How do you stop this from happening? His answer was very simple. You get out there and you compete with people. You just get out there and compete. You don't let this happen. And I think Texas did a great job. Texas Republicans did a great job in 2020, leading up to the election. After seeing what happened in 2018 with Ted Cruz almost losing that race, I think Republicans did a great job of getting on the ground, knocking on doors, especially during the pandemic. They got out there and knocked on doors while Democrats, try to do it virtually and things like that, and text messaging and all that stuff. And Republicans spent a lot of money to keep Texas red. So, yes, it is more competitive, but at the same time, Republicans continue to turn out and vote in huge numbers to keep the state red. So, yes, I get it. It can be frustrating to see a California license plate because you assume, oh, they're going to turn the state blue. They're here to destroy the state. We look at, what's that actor, James Vanderbeek? Who's that? The guy from, what's that show called? I can't remember, but you know what I'm talking about. Dawson's Creek, I believe. Yeah, but anyway, he moved to Texas. And he said this himself. I didn't come to Texas to turn into California. So, my personal experience, I've met people who have moved from California to Texas. I'll give you two examples right here. So I met a guy and his wife who came, they just moved from California about a month. This is a couple of years ago, but they only been here for about a month. And he said, we just moved here from California. And he quickly said, I'm not here to destroy the state. I'm a conservative. I'm very conservative. I have a love my guns. I go to church every Sunday. I'm not here to turn Texas blue. Don't worry. I cannot wait to get rid of that California license plate. That California plate cannot go fast enough. So I met another couple. A lady said this is probably about two or 3 weeks ago. A lady said they moved from California from the Los Angeles area. I said, oh, okay. And I'm originally from California. I've been in Texas for a long time now. And she gave me a disclaimer. Hey, I'm not here to turn Texas blue. She said she voted in she campaigned for Larry Elder for the recall election. They bought a house out here. They sold their house, bought it out here. And they wanted to get away from the lockdowns and things like that. And they were a little bit older. Maybe they're in their 50s or 60s. And probably, I think they were in their 60s. And she said, we can't deal with California anymore. So we came out here. We brought our daughter out here. She's a Republican. And then her husband came out as well, their son-in-law. And he used to be a Democrat. He came out here, and actually what happened, his reason for wanting to leave was because of the riots. The riots in California and the lockdowns will push him away, push him to the right. So he was a Democrat voter his whole life. The riots happened, and he had to take his kids to his in-laws' house to keep them safe. They lived in a more safe neighborhood, I think, somewhere near the beach, and he said, you know what, it's time to go. Once the in-laws moved to Texas, and he said, it's time to go. So they moved to Texas, and now that guy, the son-in-law, who is a former Democrat voter, is now she says more purple, red-leaning voter. So he's leaning towards that conservative column because of the lockdowns, because of the vaccine mandates, which was the primary reason, I would say, actually, for him moving his family out here. Because of the vaccine mandates. The guy was a coach or something like that. He used to play sports when he was young. He wants his kids to play sports. And he said, I'm not having my kids get a vaccine to play sports, so we're going to move in. Somebody like that is not going to vote Democrat. Somebody who has conservative in-laws, who's married to a conservative woman, who saw these riots himself, who saw these vaccine mandates being pushed, it turned that guy off and pushed him to the right. So just keep this in mind. Now, there are a lot of people coming to the state of Texas. Yes, they are. But, okay, so Texas has, this is from the 2021 Texas Relocation Report. In 2019, we received about 537,000 people to 582,000 new residents. But 435,000 to 471,000 people left the state. A lot of those being Texas residents moving to California. So it's not like we're just receiving a whole bunch of new, 500,000 new residents a year and people aren't leaving. No, people are leaving the state. So not everybody coming to the state are Democrats, and people leaving this state, you have to assume a lot of those people are liberal as well. So based on my assumption and what I've been seeing and what I've been reading and hearing, it's the majority of people I talk to, I would say all of them that I talk to that are from California have told me that they are conservative in the past. So based on data, I'm thinking it's about 60-40. I'm saying it's probably 60% of the people that come are conservative and maybe 40% liberal. It could be higher, 65-35 based on some of the polling data. So every time you see a California plate, don't always assume the worst. Don't always assume that they are turning Texas blue, because the elections just don't show that. People have been coming from California for years, and that's not going to stop. As long as California is going downhill the way it is, people are going to keep moving. But as the polling shows, majority of the people moving are conservatives. It doesn't matter what state they're moving to. Also check out conservativemove.com. That guy, Paul, I believe his name is Paul Chabot or Shabbat, I can't pronounce his name, but he has conservativemove.com where he helps conservatives move to different states. And I've emailed this guy personally, and he said from what he's seeing, the majority of people are leaving California are conservative. So keep that in mind. Like I said, don't try not to use those talking points too much about California's going to destroy Texas and turn Texas blue. Like I said, some of the data I've showed you just does not point to that. So, but at the same time, you have to remain vigilant, and we have to keep Texas the way it is. If you want economic prosperity and things like that, economic prosperity, lower taxes, more affordable place to live, then you have to vote conservative. And I mean, we saw what happened in California, what's going on in New York and Illinois, places like that. And then people are leaving these places in droves, and they're coming to red states. So don't be afraid to promote the conservative agenda and remind people why they came here if they have any trouble knowing that. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end the video right there. I wanted to talk about that and give you my opinion, and based on what the data says. And it does not look like Texas is going to turn blue because of these Californians. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Share this around, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Take care.